Welcome, everyone. We are very glad that you could join us today for the 6th installment of the Department of Correction Insider Series webinar. Today's topic is education in prison. My name is Heather Zwickert, and I'm the Chief of the Planning, Research, and Reentry Unit at the Department of Correction, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. Planning, Research, and Reentry is a specialized unit in the Office of the Commissioner. Leads the department's data collection and analysis efforts, facilitates strategic planning, oversees the department's accreditation and compliance, and provides project management for multi-bureau initiatives set by the commissioner. The unit has also been assigned the task of expanding prisoner reentry initiatives within the department. Today's presenters include from the Department of Correction, Dr. Thomas Keeton, from the Department of Education, Maureen Whelan, Dr. Darrell Miller, and Dr. Dwight Boney. Tom Keeton is the Superintendent of Education for the Delaware Department of Correction. Dr. Keeton has been in education for 20 years. He's been with the DOC since 2014. And in addition to education, Dr. Keeton has worked extensively in the business and finance world and has authored numerous books. Tom is a member of the Delaware Correctional Reentry Commission Employment and Education Work Group. Maureen Whelan is the Director of Adult Prison Education, Director of Adult and Prison Education Resources Work Group in the Department of Education. Previously, Maureen served as the Teacher Supervisor at James T. Vaughn Correctional Center and as the statewide Adult Education Professional Development Coordinator, and also as the West End Assistant Director of Adult Education Programming, to include supervision of welfare to work, family literacy, and teen parenting programs. Maureen serves on the DCRC Executive Committee. Darrell Miller serves as the Education Associate of Adult and Prison Education Resources in the Department of Education. Previously, he held the role of Teacher Supervisor at Howard R. Young Correctional Institute and at Baylor Women's Correctional Institution. Darrell has more than 10 years of experience serving correctional education populations, and Dr. Miller co-chairs the DCRC Employment and Education Work Group. And last but not least, we have Dwight Boney. Dwight has served as the Teacher Supervisor at Baylor Women's Correctional Institute for the past 7 years. Dr. Boney has been with the state of Delaware for 17 years and has 10 years in prison education. During his time in prison education, Dr. Boney has taught adult basic education, GED, high school diploma, and some college courses. Dr. Boney and his team have worked hard with the department to expand vocational and post-secondary education opportunities at Baylor Women's Correctional, and including serving as a pilot site for the Second Chance Pell partnership with Delaware Technical and Community College. Dwight is also a member of the DCRC Employment and Education Work Groups. So thank you, everyone, for presenting for us today. Next, actually, we're going to launch a poll right now, right? So today's agenda. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Let me do this one first. What you see here is a listing of Department of Correction facilities, level 5 and level 4 facilities. This information is also available on the Department of Correction website. You'll see that we have 4 level 5 prison facilities, 1 facility for women and 3 facilities for men. For level 4 community correction facilities, there are currently 5 facilities in operation. The women's facility is Hazel D. Plant Women's Treatment Facility, and that serves as the work release and substance use treatment disorder program location for women. And then the men's substance abuse treatment disorder location is at CCTC, Community Corrections Treatment Center. So today's agenda will include an overview of how the Department of Correction and the Department of Education collaborate to provide academic and vocational opportunities to adult learners in DOC facilities. We'll discuss how educational functioning levels and vocational skills and interests are assessed and how program placement occurs. You'll learn about a variety of programs offered at level 5 and level 4 facilities. We'll also give you some information on ways that you can get involved and connected. And at the end, we will provide a period for Q&A. Please submit any questions that you have in the Q&A box on your Zoom screen. If you use the Q&A box versus the chat, it's easier to keep track of. Questions often get lost in the chat, so please use the Q&A function to submit any questions that you would like our panelists to answer at the end of our presentation. Due to the large number of attendees that we have, we likely won't be able to answer every question, but we will respond to as many unanswered questions via email afterwards that we can. Please note that we cannot, during the webinar, answer any questions about specific individuals in our custody or who have been in our custody. We'll give you information at the end of the webinar about ways to reach out if you have questions about a specific person. The webinar is recorded, and we will make the recording and the PowerPoint available after the webinar. Today's webinar and all of our previous webinars are available for viewing on the Department of Corrections YouTube channel. So you can search for the Delaware Department of Correction on YouTube, and you'll be able to view all the previous 5 webinars that we've done, and then today's webinar will be uploaded in the next few days. We will provide a certificate of attendance for those who stay tuned in for the entire webinar. So if you are on for the entire webinar, you'll be able to have a certificate of attendance issued once we're done. We will be conducting several polls during the webinar today to keep things interactive. Note that your answers are anonymous and your participation is greatly appreciated. I'm going to go ahead and launch our first poll right now. And this poll is, we'd like to get a sense of who's joining us. So if, as a check-in, we would just invite you to click on the poll and tell us what stakeholder group best describes you. We'll give everyone a minute to answer, and then after I close the poll, you'll be able to see the results. And I think that I said, but the poll results are anonymous, so we can't see who's answering. And in the Q&A section, you're able to ask your question either anonymously or with your name. Just note that if you ask a question anonymously and we aren't able to answer you during the webinar, we won't be able to contact you to answer after the fact. All right, we'll just give it another couple of seconds. Almost everyone has participated. All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share our results. So it looks like we have an equal split of Department of Correction employees and other state agency employees. So that's interesting, like the exact same number. We have some attorneys joining us, community members, and we have some folks joining us from nonprofit organizations. So that's great. We like to, kind of the goal of this series is to provide information on the things that we do within the department, not only to people within our department, but to people in the community, so that everyone has an idea of the things that we are working on here at the Department of Corrections. So thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks for participating in the first poll. Okay, so I am going to turn it over now to Dr. Keeton, the DOC Superintendent of Education, and he's going to get our webinar started. Tom?
Great. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. I would just like to express a thank you to the participants in this particular webinar. We're excited to have you here, that you're showing an interest in what we at DOC and DOE provide to our residents in our facilities. At the end of the webinar, you should be able to answer the question, how does the Delaware Department of Corrections support education for our residents? Now, in the webinar, we're going to make some reference to level 5 and level 4, and to kind of get a general clarification on what that means. A broad definition for a level 5 resident is a resident who's going to be in one of our facilities for more than a year. And again, on a broad basis, when we talk about a level 4 resident, we're talking about someone who might be in our facility a year or less. So that's just a general definition. Just try to help clear things up when we talk about our 5s and our 4s. Next slide, please. DOC's education's mission is to provide education training opportunities to inmates, which removes the lack of education as a reason for recidivism. The goal is to work with DOE partners to facilitate the return of the resident to society as a proactive and productive citizen. Next slide. In 2000, the Delaware Department of Correction, we'll go back one. In 2000, the Delaware Department of Correction and Delaware Department of Education became legislative partners. Both partners provided education to the residents of the DOC correctional system. Now I'll share with the audience what DOC education provides to our residents, and DOE will follow up with sharing what DOE provides to the residents in our facilities from their prison and education programs. Next slide. DOC and DOE established an MOU to ensure that DOC's mission is the driving force of the education delivered in our DOC facilities. A couple of key elements resulted from this collaboration, which are 95% of our residents have access to educational services. And if you think about the facilities that we're working at, that's quite an impactful percentage. DOC has partnered with Dell Tech to offer Pell Grant funded college courses to 2 of our facilities and have another one in the queue for potentially adding to that list to move it to 3. Educational assessments and vocational surveys are conducted with our level 5 residents. Next slide. At level 5 in our maximum housing area, education has been limited for our high security populations in the past. An extension to the SHU was constructed that included 5 rooms dedicated to education and treatment services. Maximum security inmates in Delaware's largest men's prison now have access, and I should say increased access, to DOE educational programming opportunities, in addition to DOC treatment programming opportunities. So we've been able to increase education and the other treatment programs to that particular population. The initiative provides high security inmates with the opportunity to learn new skills and to demonstrate a positive mindset, which are both essential ingredients to a successful reentry. Next slide. Just as with citizens who are not residents in our facilities, the COVID-19 pandemic posed significant challenges to continuing programming and education within DOC facilities. DOC responded quickly to these challenges and took this opportunity to develop a video conferencing delivery system in our prisons. This quick response allowed our level 4 facilities to not have any break in the educational delivery of face-to-face programming through the online video conferencing. DOC developed a plan with DOE to create and then deliver educational programming via video conference to the level 5 residents as well. Every facility now has the equipment in operation to virtually deliver education and other programming to incarcerated individuals. This infrastructure will also provide post-COVID opportunities to provide a broader level of programming and educational opportunities within the DOC facilities. During the level 5 video conferencing development, education was able to be delivered via correspondence format to maintain a continuum of education by DOE. We'll now have our next polling question.
All right, thank you, Tom. So poll question number 2. We're gonna move on to some more specific information about education in our facilities. So let's start with asking a question. What do you think has the greatest impact on high-risk students? Technology availability, rigorous curriculum, the teacher relationship, or the teacher's knowledge? And we'll just give about a minute for answers, and then we will share results. All right, thanks so much for participating. Everyone's getting their answers in. We'll just give it another couple of seconds. All right. And let's see what the group thought. All right, Tom, so 72% of our participants believe that the teacher relationship has the greatest impact on high-risk students. Can you tell us what the correct answer is?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And it's exciting to see that the audience is in sync with what research says. Yanzeb tells us that Marzano, Thompson, Stiggins, Danielson, and Pickering's research indicates that students' relationships with their teacher has the greatest impact on the high-risk students' academic success. Now, this critical component, teacher relationships, is critical when teachers are trying to develop programming and delivery while they're still working within a secured environment in one of our facilities. I know in our various training programs, we look at the ability to manipulate. So being able to find a way to establish that relationship while still working with a security environment takes a lot of work and effort, and we appreciate what our teachers do to be able to enable that. So let's see here. Yanzeb tells us facilities to learning and chances to achieve goals. All right. So for us, it's about providing the opportunity. Whelan tells us to start where our students are, not from where we want to start. Some of the timing and training in prisons is to wait until residents are closer to exit to get their education or training. But according to Pink, it must start now because greater long-term growth can be achieved the sooner it starts. When the resident achieves a success, there's a change in their own self-belief and their capabilities. The sooner they begin, the more time is available for applying those skills and to continue to grow in the extended acquisition of knowledge and skills. As an example, just because someone passes the ASE exam and it happens to expire before they get out, does not mean that that's a bad thing. The knowledge can be built on and continue to grow for that particular individual. They gain self-confidence because they passed the exam, and if they had to retake it, it would be less daunting because they've already established they have the ability to do it. And in the facility, potentially they have the availability to expand that skill set as well. Next slide.
All right, I think actually we're going to launch our next poll.
Okay.
Right now. So the next question we would like to ask to the group is the likelihood of achieving career goals is impacted most by which of the following: setting goals, having a written plan, having a good education, and working hard. You guys are answering quick. Thanks so much for the participation and being tuned in. All right, just another couple of seconds. All right, great, thank you. All right, Tom, it looks like we were a little more divided on the answer to this question than last time. So the likelihood of achieving career goals is impacted mostly by which of the following? It looks like we have kind of at the top, setting goals. Coming in at number 2 was a written plan, followed by good education and working hard. Tommy, would you like to share with the group?
Sure.
All right.
Sure, I would like to. What's kind of great about that is, again, the group in general has a pretty good sense. And the research of Robbins and DeCenzo, Knick, and Soje, Bateman, Snell, Kapansky, all indicate that a written plan greatly increases the likelihood of accomplishing the task. Now, when you look at goal setting, and again, that's what was exciting to see that was also in that large response, because goal setting is a piece of putting that plan in writing, but that's exactly what the research says. They need to put that into writing in order to facilitate that actually occurring. Now, most of our resident population does not know where to start and also how to go about creating a plan. They probably have never thought about this, and they probably have never thought about what they want to do or how they're going to make that happen. So where do I start? Who do I talk to? The planning tool will enable them to put the plan into writing. And after the resident decides on the job they want to do after exiting, they can list what they have, what is needed for the position, and identify what shortcomings they may have to identify a way to secure that particular knowledge. Now, this happens to be the process that we're currently using at level 4. Next slide. Now, I think we've talked in general about how we kind of evolved to where we are. Now let's talk about some of the offerings that we have at our facilities, all right? I'm gonna move down to mine. So at level 5, or excuse me, at level 4 rather, the minimum entry level credential is focused on first, and then vocational training, including certifications, are provided. So in this particular case, if we look at that, you can see in the first column that we have basic adult education, ABE, GED. In our particular case, we're not doing a high school diploma, which is, and again, I'll leave that to DOE to describe what they do at level 5, but because of the short time that we have available with our level 4 residents, we feel that we're able to give them a credential in a shorter window of time. But at the same time, we don't forget that we have people who are below that GED level and try to help them work toward that ability to benefit that ABE, the adult education basic, is what we would provide. In addition to that, we have vocational training, all right? Things that are related to post-high school. We have a construction program, allied health, an entrepreneurial program. One of the new ones that was added this past year was that it's called 5 for 5. In the old days, we referred to it as 4 by 5, but they're able to get an OSHA certification, forklift certification training, certification with a scissor lift, flagger, and serve safe. So we try to look at what we can accomplish in a shorter period of time at level 4 to help that resident leave our facilities with options to have success. All right. Now, one of the things that we don't happen to have on this particular side is that DOC has an MOU with Deltech to deliver college courses utilizing the Second Chance Pell program at level 5. Now, DOE is going to share the details of that later in their part of the presentation. All right. We'll move on to the next slide. All right. Level 5 provides institutional on-the-job training opportunities for a broad range of employment positions within the facility. These are shown in the left column. Now, the residents are hired to work in a particular area and receive the hands-on experience specific to that particular setting. Now, I'm not going to read the list to you, but these on-the-job training, the real work experiences, provide that worker with skills in that area and also provide the ability to explore whether this would be an area they would like to work in upon exiting the facility. Level 4 also provides a broad range of institutional on-the-job training opportunities and expands that by about 40%. And we can look at that list, and specifically, if you look at the automotive detailing, automotive repairs, recycling, beekeeping, and the other things on the list, those are the things that we're able to do at level 4 that aren't readily available to be able to deliver at level 5. So let's just look at an example. One of those is tree removal. The resident learns how to split and bundle firewood, which is provided to the state parks for sale. In the butcher shop, deer are butchered and prepared for the agencies providing free meals. In carpentry, one of their annual products are deer stands to sell to the hunters for deer season. In the automotive repair, the basics of oil changes and tire repair are the starting points moving on to brake work, tune-ups, and other foundational automotive experiences. In small engine repair, which is provided by Deltech, the students learn the foundational components of repairing 2-cycle engines. And when you think about specifically, say, our Sussex area, where there's a lot of hospitality and related to that, fishing and outdoor activities and boating, that knowledge is a great resource to that particular student to have an opportunity to go to work when they get out. You'll see that there are more things listed above. Now, the funds that are received from the sale of the products that are created go back into that system and are used to help fund additional skill acquisition and educational opportunities. Next slide. Delaware Correctional Industries is another area where residents can obtain skills through on-the-job training. DCI is located at James T. Vaughan and provides a broad range of skills in the areas of manufacturing and restoration. I mean, if you look at the screen, you can see there's a broad set in that particular group. DCI has a variety of shops, which are motor pool, furniture, upholstery, printing, sign, embroidery, and concrete. Now, DCI's largest is the wood shop, where they employ about 90 workers. Now, DCI's philosophy is that since most of the workers are there for a long period of time, they feel like they have an exceptional opportunity to really work on those life type skills because that resident is there for such a long time. And it has proved to be pretty true. Next slide, please. DOC Policy 7.2 establishes a system for residents to earn good time while participating in program. The hours of participation are collected on a monthly basis and result in an awarding of good time days per month. Now, the maximum participation of good time hours, which can be earned per month, is 10. Residents at both 4 and 5 will earn good time on an equal basis. And I believe that policy has been in place for about the last 2 years. There was a window of time when the focus had been on level 5 to earn the good time, and it was great. I think it was in November of 2019 when the policy was expanded to allow both level 5s and 4s to participate. Next slide. Now, in addition to active participation good time, bonus good time is awarded when a resident successfully completes a DOC approved program. Now, some of the examples are 30 days of good time for earning a high school diploma, a GED, or a diploma of alternative achievement standards. These happen to be the ones that we focus mainly on in our particular site as an emphasis, I'll say at level 4, but there are many other DOC approved programs which have been evaluated and approved to award bonus good time as well. And you can see on the list, there's a range of days, and in that assessment process, they evaluate what would be the most appropriate number of days to award. And that has been established, as you can see on the chart. So there are incentives for somebody not just to go to school and put time in, but also to achieve the ultimate by getting some type of certification or completion. Again, with the goal of in their reentry, they have a greater likelihood of success if they have proof of their academic success or skill set success. I'd like to thank the audience for your interest in our DOC education and say, Heather, I'll let you turn that over and go to the next group.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Keeton. Really appreciate your presentation. Now we're going to go ahead and turn it over to our DOE partners. And Maureen, if you would like to take us on. You're muted, Maureen.
You'll let me know when there's a polling question.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I echo what it is that Dr. Keeton has said. We really do appreciate you being on the webinar today and finding out what it is that we're doing and helping us to understand exactly what it is that you would be looking for, but also what it is that we're offering to all of the residents that are living in our level 5 prisons. So if I could go to the next screen. All righty. In July I'm sorry, Heather, if we could go back up one, that'd be perfect. Thanks. In July 2000, the Department of Education assumed responsibility for the prison education services within the prison. In 2001, the program was officially recognized as a collaborative effort between the Departments of Correction and the Departments of Education, with each agency specifically designated responsibilities to facilitate program operations. And that's what Tom was talking about in that MOU that we have. In June 2014, the Prison Education Unit was created as a unit within the Department of Education. And today we operate the prison education program in the 4 prisons statewide, and we provide specialized services at level 4 work release centers. So thank you. Could we go to the next one? Okay, what you can see here is why it is a collaborative effort. On the side of the Department of Corrections, you can see exactly what it is that they are doing, which is the provision of treatment, rehabilitation, restoration of offenders as useful law-abiding citizens within the community. And then you can see what it is that the Department of Education does, which is to provide those skills and that information that will allow residents, offenders to be productive workers, family members, and citizens, both while they're incarcerated and also upon release. Now, what happens is that since 2019, several state agencies, stakeholders, and community partners have been collaborating and reviewing what our best practices were so we could support the residents leaving the community and have them having the best chances once they get back into the community to remain outside and be productive citizens. So with that framework of reentry planning at the onset of sentencing, our thought, DOCs and DOEs, is that we begin the planning on day one of entry. So we're talking about that classification process that we go through, and then planning what it is that we can be offering as the resident remains incarcerated. So we have collaborated and formalized the delivery of academic and vocational surveys to newly classified residents with the idea of finding out exactly what folks' current academic educational levels are, and also what kind of work experience they've had, what kind of training they've had, and if they've had none, what would there be their interest in the currently provided trainings. So I have seen some of the questions in the questions and answers. And what will end up happening is that we will be going through some stats a little bit later. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to answer your questions at that point also. All righty, we are talking about, again, academic and vocational trainings that we do. We do life skills trainings. We are also doing, as Tom had mentioned, a collaboration with the Dale Tech Community College under the Second Chance Pell grant. We'll have a little bit more on that a little bit later too. And the current priorities for the DCRC 2.0 are going to be around strengthening vocational trainings, connection to employment opportunities for residents, and completing vocational training while they're inside, but also having them be able to continue that training once they get to the outside. So there's an awful lot of collaborative effort between the DOC, the DOE, may I also add between DSHA, which is housing, and also the Department of Labor, along with other community members. The whole idea here, the whole point here is that we are all putting together our services to provide the resident who is entering back into their community with the best options to be able to make the decision to stay outside in the community and be a productive citizen, an effective family member, and an active community member. Could I, Heather, ask you to go to the next slide?
So I think that we had a poll, and I think that I might have placed the poll at the wrong place. So instead of getting you to guess before you've heard the answer, we're going to launch a poll in which you've already heard the answer. So we'll see how well everyone was paying attention. Maureen just talked about reentry planning. So question is, when does reentry planning begin for returning citizens at level 5? 7 to 10 months prior to release, upon admission to a level 5 facility after sentencing, after completing a treatment program, or 2 weeks prior to release. So we'll give everybody a minute to answer. All right, just a couple more seconds. Thanks for the participation. All right, and I will wrap the poll up now and share results. Maureen, 78% of our participants believe that we begin reentry planning upon admission to level 5 after sentencing. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah,
Thank
super
you.
important, right? We, in the past, Reentry planning probably didn't start maybe till the last 6 months of someone's sentence. And, what we've kind of learned over time is that we need to be preparing from door to door. So as soon as you come in, we need to start preparing you for your release. Let me move to our next slide. Is this where you want to be, or on to the next one?
Yes, this is just to go over again. Alrighty. This is United in Purpose. And Darrell, I think you were going to explain a little bit about this, please.
Yeah, just a quick good morning to everyone, and thank you again for joining our webinar this morning. Maureen shared a lot of the things that we're talking about here under the DCRC, the Delaware Correctional Reentry Commission. So, just to reemphasize how important it has been for our state agencies to come together to be able to begin that planning at reentry to provide those services that are listed here on this slide, and to be able to deliver those important services. And both Tom and Maureen shared the implementation of the second chance Pell, and both at Baylor Women's Correctional, and you'll hear more about that later again. But providing work readiness skills at all facilities, and the vocational and academic assessments upon entry. Can I ask you to go to the next slide?
So I think we're going to ask a poll before we move on to the education delivery model.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So, do you think that a student who is in prison can work toward their GED? Oh, quick responses here. All right, thank you guys so much. All right, just give it another second. All right, great, thank you guys. All right, so DOE, 100% of our participants believe that you can take courses to work towards your GED while in prison. Is that an accurate statement?
That is not only an accurate statement, but we also administer the GEDs within the prison. So we can work towards getting that instruction, and also attain, the residents can attain that credential if they pass the test. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. All righty. Folks, as you look at this delivery model, all righty, and this is what it is that happens in each of the 4 level 5 sites that we're talking about, is we have academics, and this may answer some of the questions that were in the question and answer, beginning with beginning ABE and ESL, and that really means beginning ABE is I am not able to read yet. We'll answer some of those questions about how we figure out what levels you're at in a subsequent screen. All right, intermediate ABE, we do GED. Groves Adult High School, for those folks who are not familiar what it is that Groves Adult High School does, it is an adult high school that is also available out in the community. Our thought here was whatever we started in the prisons, if you didn't get to finish it, you could continue it once you get out into the prisons. And it is for anybody who is 16 or older and is not enrolled in a regular local high school. All righty, we also have life skills. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on, and that's where we're talking about cognitive behavioral modification and also community resources. We have special education services for those students who are eligible for special education. We have college. We'll talk around this again a little bit. College, both under the Delaware Tech Community College project, but also offenders are able to take college courses on their own, and with some of the other colleges that we're partnering with. We also have various vocational trainings in addition to what Tom had mentioned prior, and we have an educational diagnostician who helps to support those special education teachers, but also helps to do a lot of the current functioning level assessment that students have to go through once they come into our prison education program. Heather, could I ask you to go to the next? All right, this looks a little complicated, all right, but what we were trying to do here is give folks an idea of how adult education, because this operates not only in prison education, but also in the community adult education, how it aligns with what would happen in a K through 12. Though we never tell an adult learner, by the way, you're in 3rd grade level, or by the way, you're in 8th grade level. What we do is we talk to our scores and we talk about the functioning levels, all righty? And those functioning levels are going to be what we're calling the ESL level 1 all the way up to ESL level 6, the ABE level 1 all the way up to ABE level 8. And then under the Groves, this would be educational functioning levels, which would be ASE and also low ASE and high ASE. I should tell you, if you can look at, all right, where it says ABE level 1, that's 2 grade levels. ABE level 2 is 2 grade levels. So when we post-assess, all righty, students can make that jump 2 or 3 grade levels, depending on what level they're on, based on what their scores on that post-assessment are going to be. All righty. Could I ask for the next screen, please?
We're going to, I think, jump into the last
sure.
DOE poll to see what people might already know about our process. So let's see. So I think you've touched on it a little. Did it launch? Yes.
Yes.
I think you've touched on it a little bit. And I think you're going to get into it a little bit more as we go forward. But how are students placed in education? Do they start at the grade level they left school? Are they assessed for their current school skills level? Or does everyone just start at the same level? Thanks for participation. You guys are really quick with these poll questions. It's great. And we'll just give it another minute. Just a few seconds more. Anybody wants to put in an answer? All right, and I will end the poll and share our results. So 94% of our participants believe that we place students in education by assessing for current skills levels. Is that correct?
That is absolutely perfectly correct. Yes, thank you. And what a great place to put that polling question, because the next thing we were talking about was assessment. One of the very important things that we have to think about is that upon being classified at DOC, individuals are administered a locator test and a vocational survey. Now, that locator test is going to be a short and quick estimate of educational level. So it provides the prison education program with an approximate functioning education level of the residents at each of the facilities. I think that might answer some of the questions that are coming up on the Q&A screens. And upon entry into the prison ed program, students are administered a more extensive test, which identifies math and reading needs and leads to placements in the educational functioning levels that was shown on that previous slide. All right, so the thought here is going to be, we're not taking you from where you were the last time you're in school. We're asking you right now, what is it that you do and you don't know? We call it that Swiss cheese effect. We're there to fill in what the gaps are and to help you get to whatever that credential is as quickly as possible. Thanks, Heather. If we could go to the next one. All righty, so when we're talking about academics, which we said was one of the categories that we give instruction in, what you can see is that we are based on adult education principles, which is not quite the same as K through 12, but it runs in alignment with it. So what we talk about is making sure as we're doing all of this instruction, again, you can be anything from a not able to read up to I've practically got all of the information I need to be able to take the GED, or I practically have all of those credits I need to be able to get a high school diploma. But we're using those adult education principles that say, A, we've got to make that material relevant. We're not talking about using stuff, say, if I'm a second grade reader, that somebody would use in a second grade classroom. We're talking about using second grade reading levels with adult contextual materials. We're also looking at what previous knowledge is. So every adult brings that with them into that learning experience, and that helps them connect the new stuff that we're teaching along with the stuff that they already have. So what we really are is piling on skills and information onto whatever they already have. And also to be able to look at where the gaps are. That's where the Swiss cheese comes in, and that's where it is that we'll do our remediation. So we have those grade levels anywhere from I can't read up to getting my high school diploma or my GED. Once a person makes an educational functioning level, what we talked about in the previous screen, then they are given a certificate of attainment. And all of the curriculums that we do use are aligned with Delaware's Common Core standards. Ready? If Heather, we could go to the next one, that would be great. All right, just a really quick on academics. The GED changed in 2014. Alrighty, it became a significantly harder test to pass. It has got four different components there. And when a student reaches that GED level, then he is administered the GED subtest at their facility. I will tell you that students don't generally take all four at one time, which they used to do in the past, because those tests take longer, and because now that we're administering them inside the prison, there's only a certain amount of time that we're going to be able to have that student be able to remain and take that entire test. Plus, the tests are hard. It's probably a good idea to break it up, because by the time you got to that last test, you would probably be just really very tired and not being able to demonstrate all of the skills that you have. All right, the test is a computer-based test. It is not an internet-based test. Students do not have access in the prison education program to any internet-based programs. And there are 4 subtests, and all 4 of them need to be passed in order to attain that secondary credential. Good thing is, if you pass 3 of them, those scores stay in place until you pass the 4th one. So those scores don't expire. Alrighty, could I ask you to get to the next one? Thank you. I think Groves is one on top of that. If you go back just one, Heather. Yeah, thank you. The James H. Groves Adult High School. All right, some folks will decide that they want to go into this. And remember, it's up to the resident to decide which one he wants to go into once he gets to that level. Whether he can continue with his GED and then go into Groves, or he can go straight into Groves if he has a lot of credits that he already has in place, so that he just wants to build up to be able to get to what his high school diploma is. So that Groves Adult High School operates throughout the state, and it enables folks the second chance to pass the high school courses required by the Delaware Department of Education to attain a high school diploma. The courses that we offer in Groves, as I noted before, are aligned with the Common Core standards and the National Science standards, the exact same kind of courses as what would be offered in your local public schools. Groves is accredited by the Middle States Commission on Secondary Schools. It's a nationally recognized organization that certifies schools that have met their national standards around mission, leadership, school improvement, finances, school climate, educational programming, information resources, and technology. And we do have members of Middle States come in from other states and review what it is we do in Groves. And each year, well, it's not each year, every cycle, which is about every 3 to 4 years, they will come in, and we do bring them to the prisons and show them exactly what it is that we're doing in our prisons. So we are accredited up to, I believe it's 2023. And once you get finished with Groves, you will get a high school diploma that is issued out of the Delaware Department of Education. Ready. Thanks, Heather. If we could go to the next one. All righty. And Dr. Miller, could you help us out on these slides?
Sure, Maureen, thanks. In terms of special education students, services rather, students up to the age of 22 who meet eligibility criteria receive services through the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. Certified prison education staff follow a specific process to locate eligible sentenced or detained persons at level 4 and level 5 facilities to provide these IDEA services. And once identified, individuals' education plans are developed based on unique evaluations and their prior educational history. Heather, can I ask you to advance? In terms of life skills, our program provides essential skills to participants, like you see here, and these essential skills support reentry to their communities. So examples here like financial literacy and employability skills, but they also include things like parenting, assessing relationships and connections to additional training opportunities upon release. At the center of the life skills instruction sits moral recognition therapy, or it's MRT. It's a 12-step cognitive behavioral therapeutic program that leads to better decision-making and the reinforcement of positive behaviors and habits. Next slide, please. So a number of vocational trainings are available to prepare participants for employment upon release. I think there were a couple questions about post-secondary opportunities in the Q&A. So these opportunities are selected by considering which industries and jobs are in demand, which those industries that are willing to employ persons with a criminal background. We maintain regular communication and receive feedback from employers in the industry. And we seek those opportunities that lead to industry recognized credentials. So a consistent message that we hear from employers is the importance of employability skills, such as communication, teamwork, time management, and these are all built into our vocational offerings. And so you see here on the screen, CTEC certification. So as an example, students gain skills in network cabling, copper and fiber-based systems. Tom mentioned earlier some of the skills gained in auto tech. So similarly, they learn about steering, brake and electrical systems. Masonry students gain skills on installation and laying techniques, as well as site plan interpretation. And culinary students learn about food safety and sanitation, as well as the fundamentals of restaurant management in advanced coursework. Can I ask you to advance, please? Hey, Dwight.
Yes.
Dr.
Good
Boney.
morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Miller. It's what everyone's been waiting for. We've heard about Second Chance Pell Grant throughout this entire presentation. So now you're going to get some background. The Second Chance Pell Grant was awarded to several colleges and universities to provide the opportunity for the justice involved to gain access to higher education. This grant was awarded to Delaware Tech Community College, and in 2021, the first college class was implemented at BWCI. 13 students earned A's and B's to start earning college credits toward an associate's degree in human services. The instruction was completely via Zoom because of COVID restrictions, and with the D2L system that Del Tech uses that's computerized. The next college class at Baylor will be starting very soon, and in the near future, Howard R. Young will be starting the Delaware Tech Associate's Degree College program at their institution.
Thanks, Dr. Boney. In addition to the Second Chance Pell, incarcerated residents may also enroll in national or regionally accredited institutions of higher learning. Designated prison education staff at each facility provide support to these students in terms of proctoring exams, managing and maintaining instructional materials, as well as communicating with the higher education institutions. In terms of the Inside Out courses that you see on the bottom, approximately 12 to 15 students from the University of Delaware and 12 to 15 residents participate in Inside courses, which are held separately at both HRYCI and BWCI. Students examine issues related to crime, law, and social policy. And similarly, from Washington College, they apply the same approach when exploring definitions and experiences in citizenship, identity, and justice. So both programs end with projects inside and outside students have work that they've worked on together. Heather, can I have the next slide, please? Thanks. And Maureen, do you want to?
Sure, I can do the first one.
Okay.
Folks, we are involved in a whole lot of initiatives in order to be able to provide even better options for our residents within our prisons. One of the first ones is the ARES, which is the Adult Reentry and Employment Strategic Planning. And you can see it's DOC, DOL, and DOE that are working collaboratively in here. And what we're going to be doing is providing work readiness surveys in our classes so that folks can decide what kind of work readiness skills they have. The interesting part is going to be, we will be presenting, or rather administering those surveys to the students in the class so they can self-evaluate. And then the teachers will be talking with them at the next assessment period, in which they say, okay, this is what it is that you have seen, and this is what it is that I have seen. And that conversation between what one sees one is doing and what somebody else sees you as doing will help to make those work readiness skills much more concrete in somebody's eyes. So we're looking forward to seeing what's happening there. But that's only the first part of that grant. We're also talking about doing employability skills, specific skills training, mentoring for some of the folks who are going to level 4 on the outside, and also job placement services. Darrell, if you'd like to talk about HOPES.
Sure, thanks, Maureen. The National Restaurant Association Educational Foundation selected Delaware as one of 4 states to participate in the HOPES reentry program. It's a 4-year initiative program that provides training to individuals who are 18 years and older and just as involved with industry skills for employment opportunities in food service and hospitality. So the significant part of this opportunity is that the Delaware Restaurant Association, the Delaware Department of Correction, the Delaware Department of Education, and 2 community-based organizations who are the Food Bank of Delaware and Project New Start are coming together to provide this collaborative set of connected services in this initiative, which also include, beyond the training and employment connections, case management, job placement, and wraparound services. As far as the Youth Registered Apprenticeship Program, Prison Education has partnered with Polytech Adult Education to provide this pre-apprenticeship program at Howard R. Young Correctional Institution. So these pre-apprenticeship skills are provided to young men aged 18 to 24, and the course is approximately 100 hours in length, and it's designed to prepare those students who successfully complete the program for entry-level positions in construction. And it's also a pathway into related trades upon release. So they are able to connect up with Polytech and continue their training in an additional training and trade. Can I ask you for the next slide? Hey, Dr. Boney.
Yes, sir. So now we have more projects. There are a tremendous amount of collaboration that takes place in our level 5 facilities. And starting with SCI, they provide space for meetings and computer access when needed for several incarcerated veteran groups that are at SCI. In HRYCI and BWCI, they have done coding, computer coding. HRYCI focused on Java related content with multiple levels, like an introduction level and a secondary level. BWCI, we work with nonprofit program called Girl Develop It. They work to introduce women into computer coding. We thought it was a perfect fit to come to Baylor. Girl Develop It taught intro to web concepts, intro to HTML, CSS, and intro to WordPress. It's kind of funny, we're about to talk about culinary a little bit. They're actually passing around soup right now that they've just made. But anyway, the CARES Project is an integrated education training program at BWCI. It was a collaboration between Department of Corrections Food Services at Baylor and the Culinary Arts Program. The program integrates on-the-job experience and classroom instruction to help students earn industry-recognized credentials. Outside of the culinary piece, we also have horticultural activities at BWCI. Agreements between Department of Corrections, Department of Education, Delaware Center for Horticulture, and the Garden Club of Wilmington help educate the ladies on the fundamentals of gardening, as well as the greenhouse that we have on grounds. To expand some of the involvement in what's going on in the community as far as resources, we've had multiple career fairs within the prisons. At James T. Vaughn, they've had multiple career fairs. The education team there led several fairs. They've invited several employers and stakeholders. The offenders were put into groups and the employers and stakeholders were put into stations. And then every 10 to 15 minutes, the offenders would move from station to station to learn about the opportunities available to them. They've had other fairs since then where treatment has taken the lead at James T. Vaughn, and education provided the location. They've provided the list of participants as well, just to ensure that, you know, the right people were getting the access to the information. At Baylor last year, we actually had our first virtual career fair. And what we did was we had agencies Zoom in into the classrooms to explain what services and opportunities they provide. We did that via Zoom because of COVID restrictions, you know. It was an amazing thing to do. Outside of that, the next piece we have are some of the special activities that we do. The biggest one being the Culinary Arts Program providing a grab and go lunch for a legislative meet and greet that takes place at Legislative Hall annually. This event is for adult and prison education programs to discuss the great things occurring in adult education, and it's nice to have a meal with that as well. That's provided from the ladies here at Baylor. We also have an annual event called Sisters in Success at Baylor. This is another annual event. It's a full day of workshops, and the culinary arts students have prepared everything from homemade pastries and they provide coffee stations, made to order omelets even for the guests at these events. And they also have provided rooms for breakout sessions, so that way they can actually meet here and eat here. And in general, at the end, when it comes to job and interview processes, all of the correctional education programs provide information on soft skills, interview skills, and career planning. This could include everything from resume writing to mock interviews, for example. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Dwight, and thank you, Darrell, very much for sharing that information. Folks, what we want to do is show you statistics over the last 4 years. All righty, so you can see where we have our enrollments, alrighty, in both academics and vocational, in life skills and in college. And you can see the COAs are those certificates of attainment that we talked around a student being able to attain once they've made that 2 or that 3 grade level increase, right? And we do post-test every 60 hours of instruction, unless we know somebody's leaving sooner, then we're able to get a waiver and test before that. You can see the number of GEDs, you can see the number of diplomas that we have, you can see the number of completions of our vocational classes. One thing, everybody's quite capable of looking at these numbers themselves. One of the things that we did learn, alrighty, with COVID coming to the fore, is that when COVID did appear suddenly in March 2020, we realized that we needed to get more flexible in how it is that we present our instructional courses. So just having and relying on in-person classes wasn't going to be enough. And that's when it is that we work with the Department of Corrections, and our department work together to be able to get in the equipment, to be able to get the wiring done, to be able to do video conferencing, so that you can end up seeing that on that last last quarter of FY20, you see that numbers went down significantly. One of the, just as a cautionary, one of the ways that we designate that a student has made progress is by post-testing them. If you can't post-test, we can't designate that progress has been made. Now, you may sit there and say to me, why in gosh name do you do that? We do that because we follow what the federal US DOE requests. I shouldn't say request, they mandate out of the WIOA legislation, which speaks to how adult learners, whether you're in prison or outside of prison, are going to be able to make progress and then designate progress. So when we weren't able to administer the assessment, we weren't able to get to those kinds of attainments that we would like. Hence, you suddenly see going from 576 down to 183. Part of the issue there in administering was sometimes we just could not get students over to be able to give the test because the movement was restricted due to health concerns, both for absolutely for the offenders and for anybody else who was coming in and out of the prisons. Also, when we went to Zoom, some of the tests that we used just didn't have a distance learning option. So until they developed that, that's when it is that we were able to give it. But I will say most of those distance learning options are internet-based, therefore we are not able to use them inside of the prison. Alrighty, so what ends up happening is when we go into lockdown because there is some kind of health concern, or because there's a mandate that comes down from the governor, we will do either Zoom sessions where that is possible, or we will do correspondence packets in which the student will be given a 1, 2, or 3 week set of worksheets that they should be working from. We'll send that into the housing unit. They will complete that, or if they have any questions, they will write down their questions, put it back in the packet, send it back to us. We'll answer the questions, we will score the packets, and then we'll go on from there. So we still have instruction going on even when movement has been restricted. I will end up saying though that while Zoom and correspondence clearly doesn't have the same kind of impact as in-person would, but that would be the only thing that any of us would be able to do at that point. We are working on those technologies to make sure that we can get them even better, and that there has been a tremendous amount of improvement in use of technology across DOC and DOE since FY20. We have become much more adept in being able to switch instructional formats as needed to ensure safety and health of the residents. And good news is that we went back to in-person classes as of last Monday. So, and we were having a meeting with all of our prisons this morning prior to this webinar, and most places except for the quarantined housing units are back doing 100% in-person classes. So we offer that for your review. Heather, could I ask you to go to the next slide? Darrell, maybe you could help us with this.
Sure, thanks. So we've shared about our assessment process as well as the academic and vocational instruction we provide. And so by understanding what the needs are, prison education and Department of Correction we're better equipped to support students while incarcerated and toward that time of release. So the numbers of folks that were assessed, the unique numbers of folks that were assessed that completed that TABE locator is 1,609. So this is what we're talking about when we say that snapshot. And 46 and 53% are functioning at the 5.9 grade level equivalent or below in reading or math, respectively. And so this percentage, right, includes those that have earned a credential previously, right, but may require refresher instruction. So this is key information when considering that those vocational opportunities that we spoke about, or employment opportunities upon release. So earning a GED credential or high school diploma is an important achievement, but it is one of a combination of tools that are needed for successful reentry that we're describing. Heather, can I ask you to go to the next one?
Alrighty, folks. So what you can see here is that we're not perfect. Alrighty, we can always do better, and we can see the kinds of services that we are offering to our residents in order for them to have a successful reentry. But I will tell you that these are some of the services that we are looking at right now. And folks, please understand that what we offer inside the prison education program is also what's being offered in the community adult education programs. And this is, again, all under the auspices of that Workforce Opportunity and Innovation Act. So we're talking not only about academic skills, vocational skills, we're talking about digital literacy, financial skills, employability skills, work readiness skills, confidence building. That's that growth mindset that's going to end up saying, you know, if I believe I can get it, I can probably get it with the right supports. But if I don't believe I can get it, regardless of the number of supports, then I'm not going to get it. So we talk a lot about motivation. We talk about cognitive behavioral modification. We talk about employment simulations and experiences when we're hiring instructional aides. We go through the same kind of process as they might go through if they were getting a job on the outside. We also talk about those kinds of experiences in our life skills and our vocational classes, because those classes aren't just about that behavioral modification and the specific skills, but what do you need to be able to get the job? And sometimes you need skills before those technical skills that'll actually help you do the job, such as interviewing skills or being able to write up resumes, that kind of thing. Obviously, prison education is a positive use of doing time, right? And Tom talked about that in terms of good time and meritorious good time. And we deliver services in low, medium, and high security. That addition of the classroom in Moo and Shoe at Vaughan was a huge improvement over what it is we had done before, because otherwise we would have to sometimes go one-on-one to students in Moo and Shoe, and now we can bring them down into class. And we have developed various formats to be able to address unique situations between the video conferencing, between the in-person classes, and between the correspondence packets. Now, we've done all of that stuff, but we've done it under the idea that this and what we're doing has to be evidence-based. All right, so it's been proven to work. We do it with the idea of those cognitive behavioral components are in place. And again, we know that that is evidence-based to help reduce recidivism. All righty, we are making sure that we're also working with the high-risk population and that we're prioritizing those folks, and that consistent quality programming, we're monitoring that. We do quarterly reports to see how each of the different programs at each of the sites are doing. And if there's any problems, then we go back and we do technical assistance. You know, Henry Ford once said, coming together is the beginning, but keeping together is progress, and working it together is success. And that is what it is that we're doing to try and make sure that the residents that are coming into our programs are going to be as successful as possible. Heather.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the last thing that we were planning on talking a little bit about was looking ahead. And I think we've probably touched on the vast majority of this at this point already. But we did include a slide to talk about some of the new DCRC deliverables that are part of our kind of second iteration. And Dr. Miller, as the chair of the co-chair of the Education and Employment Work Group, do you have anything that you would like to add to this slide?
It is just echoing some of Maureen's last statement. So the Department of Labor, Department of Correction, Department of Education, keep together, work together over the next 4 years. We'll find that progress and success. But this work does include strengthening those relationships with employers, who are willing to hire individuals that are returning to the community, in addition to those that we are working with from existing advisory boards. And it also means this last item here is also talking about developing a process to collect and analyze the information of individuals, employment information of individuals after their release. So yes, there's a lot of work to do, but we are all up for the task.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you
Heather.
so much. So much information I think we touched on during this presentation, so much so that I think we are kind of at like the 10-minute mark left. So we had a ton of questions submitted through the Q&A, and I really do think that we touched on a lot of them already. I wanted to, before we wrap up, I want to provide email addresses for some different teams at DOC who could help with any additional questions that you might have. We have our reentry mailbox, our victim services mailbox, and our community relations mailbox. If you do have a question about a specific inmate or a specific probationer, you can reach out to the community relations team and they'll assist you or refer you. Please just keep in mind that we can't release certain personal or health related information on inmates or probationers without their permission. So if you do reach out, you may be asked about your relationship to the individual you're inquiring about, and if the individual has been given permission for information to be released to you. But there are some email addresses for you to reach out. Again, the PowerPoint, like I said, the PowerPoint will be made available to you. So, if you're not snapping pictures or writing things down, you'll receive the PowerPoint. You will receive a certificate of attendance if you stuck in for the vast majority of the presentation. And additionally, let's see, we will have everything posted to YouTube over the next couple of days. So in April, we're going to cover cognitive behavioral treatment in facilities. So we hope that will be able to join us in April for the 7th installment of the DOC Insider Series. Keep an eye out for an email with that exact date. If you're on here, you're on our email list, so you should receive an email. And then, if you follow the Department of Correction on social media, it will also be posted. You can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and we do actually now also have an Instagram page that you can follow the Department of Correction on. I want to thank our presenters so much for taking their time and for sharing their fantastic knowledge. And before we move to kind of the abbreviated Q&A section here, the last thing we want to do is just take a poll to get some feedback on today's webinar. These answers will obviously be anonymous also, but we really do appreciate your feedback on how the webinar went. So before we move to Q&A, I'm just going to launch this last poll asking you to please rate how satisfied you were with this webinar. And I won't share the results of this one. So, please feel free to share your feelings openly there. The other thing that I would like to mention is that you can make suggestions for future webinar topics by emailing the doc_reentry@delaware.gov email address again. And the webinar will be, or the PowerPoint will be sent. So you'll have that address, and also you can go on the Department of Corrections website and look for the reentry page, and you'll be able to reach out to the DOC reentry resource mailbox. If you have any suggestions for upcoming webinars, please feel free to share them with us. So we don't have a whole lot of time left. And what I think we'll also try to do, given that there were so many questions, is anything that we feel like we don't get to that was kind of a theme question that we received a couple different ones on, we'll try to maybe put together something to include with the PowerPoint or with the webinar. We'll figure out some way to get to some of the things that we might have missed today. So I am gonna leave that poll up for one more second while I am looking at some of these questions. All right, so let us see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll. If you want to, real quick, if you haven't had the opportunity and you want to take it, last few seconds to rate your satisfaction with this webinar. All right, thank you so much. All right, so I think one of the questions, let's see, that I found, I would actually like to know the answer to also is, what strategies do the educators use to teach students who span so many different starting points?
Yeah, Heather, that was an interesting question. But what I would like to preface it by saying is that's what happens in adult ed every day of the week and every week of the year. We don't have single classes for single grade levels. So what we do when we do professional development, we skew it around those EFLs. So say non-reader up to 3rd grade, 4th grade up to 6th grade, 7th grade up to GED. So we do it around that, but also guys, remembering that you're building on top of each other. So even if I was going to end up saying that what I needed to talk about was vocabulary, I'd use that vocabulary need in every EFL from I can't read, here's your basic reading, to what are the content areas, social studies vocabulary that I need that would be in a high school level. So the thought is we specify it to levels, but we also take basic tenets and then work it all the way through the levels up to high school attainment. And that's the way you normally do it in adult education. I hope that answered the question. Heather, does that answer your question?
That does answer my question. Thank you. Let's see. There was another question about post-secondary education. Does an inmate with a GED, can they participate in post-secondary education courses, or do they have to have a high school diploma to participate, like in, say, Del Tech Second Chance Pell courses or any of the correspondence courses?
Dwight, Darrell, do you want to answer on that one on the Pell?
Sure. Yes, they can definitely participate with a GED. They don't have to have a high school diploma only to be enrolled. In some of the other colleges, there's an agreement where if they have a high enough assessment that they can participate. So if their reading and math scores are high and they're working toward their GED or high school diploma, they can participate as well.
Thank you. There's a question kind of about other local college partners. And one of the questions was, oh, I lost it. Are there any programs available via Delaware State University right now or being considered for the future?
I do believe Del State is doing an Inside Out program at Vaughan. Already, guys, understanding that Pell legislation is supposed to be changed July 1, I believe it's 2023, if I remember the year correctly, right, in which folks will be able, incarcerated folks will be able to apply for a Pell grant. So what we'll end up having to do is figure out the capacity that we have to be able to deliver those kinds of college courses, and then figure out what the process is. So we have a little time around that one. Right now, folks who would like to take their own college courses and pay for it themselves can work with the teacher supervisor if that college, or, and I think I saw a vocational program up there too, is recognized by either a regional or a national accreditation organization, kind of like the Middle States I was talking about before, with the idea being, we want to make sure whatever education is being provided is effective and it will get the person to where it is they need to be.
Great, thank you so much for that. Let's see. There's a question about average class sizes. Can we talk about what might be an average class size in the facilities? Does it differ by facility? Does it differ by program?
I will tell you that the standard usually for adult education is about somewhere from 15 to 17, right? Because guys, remember, just the same as what you talked about before, you've got people at different grade levels, alrighty, in that 15 to 17. So you got an awful lot of stuff going on, and you have one teacher at a time doing that. So that's on the adult ed side. Now, it will change from facility to facility, depending on how many people are asking for that level, right, at each facility. So it wouldn't go over 17 unless there was an absolute need, because a lot of people were getting out really soon, but we haven't seen that. But so it could be, you know, more or less depending on how people assess and what level they get placed into.
And at our level 4, Heather, the average is about 12, would be an average class size.
Great, thanks so much. There was a question about the 2001 snapshot statistics that was provided. Did that include, is that just the level 5 population, or was that level 5 and level 4 population?
No, that's level 5.
Level 5 only. So the
Tom, maybe you can.
Yeah, the two statistics for that we put up were based on the level 5 population.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Let's see. All right. Well, it looks like we are just looking to see if there's one that we can answer real quick, because we are at the 11:30 mark. Let me think. Let's see. We took that one. We took that one. Yeah, I think that I'm just looking through, and I feel like we hit a lot of the different questions just kind of in the course of our conversations. Just want to scroll through real quick.
Heather, while you're scrolling through, let me just say thank you to everybody for hanging in here. There's been an awful lot of information that was put out there. I hope we did provide you with some information you didn't know before. And again, we're on a continuous improvement process, so that everybody on this webinar, indeed, throughout all of the agencies, are here to provide the maximum amount of options so that folks can make decisions to be productive and successful once they get to the outside.
Great. There was one question that just kind of came in last minute, and I think that this is a good one too, and it might not be something that can be quickly or easily answered, so we may have to follow up. But there's a question about assessing inmates for dyslexia or other learning disabilities. Is that part of the overall educational assessment that occurs?
It's not part of the formal assessment that occurs in the when somebody comes in. What I will tell you though is that our teachers have taken professional development around students that may have barriers to learning, so that they can identify what the barrier would be, and then see what they can do in their instructional provision to be able to address that. And also, students are more than welcome to be able to say to us, privately or through the use of our accommodations process, to be able to say, look, I have a problem here. I've always had a problem, or this just started as a result of whatever. And we will sit down and work with them in order to give them the supports that they need to be successful.
And the same thing occurs at level 4. I've had the training to be able to assess that student and try to make those observations and then apply, the appropriate mechanism to help them with that. The Carbo method was the group that I used for my training.
All right. Well, again, we're a couple minutes over time, and we like to be respectful of everyone's schedule. So I want, again, to thank our presenters so much for coming on and giving us all this information about education in prison, and thank all of the attendees for wanting to learn and asking so many great questions. As I said, we will go through the questions, and if we didn't answer anything, we'll try to answer it back to you individually. And again, you will get the PowerPoint. We'll have the webinar posted on the YouTube channel sometime in the next week or so. And I Just want to thank everyone so much for coming, and we hope you join us in April for our next webinar. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.